And we need to finish up some review today, but first, next time we have class, which for you guys I think is Wednesday, we're going to have a quiz. And it's going to be a one problem quiz to make sure that you know how to use your calculator. So we're going to practice a couple of problems right now. These are not written down anywhere. These are just random problems. We're going to practice a couple and make sure everybody knows how to use his or her calculator. So, do you have your calculator out? You need to make sure it's out, because that's going to be this whole thing is just a calculator problem. So, here we go. X plus Y plus Z is 7. 2x minus y minus 3z equals 6. And 4x plus y equals negative 3. All right, so I'll give you a minute to get that copied down. So you're going to get a half a sheet of paper. It'll be a half sheet of paper. It'll have something like that written on it. So what are you going to do? What are you going to write down on your paper? No one can tell me what we're going to write down on the paper?
Matrix.
Well, we're going to write down the matrix of all of the numbers in the problem. So the top row of my matrix will be 1, 1, 1, 7. These are going to be my x's and my y's and my z's, and then my equals numbers over here. So then 2, negative 1, negative 3, 6. Notice how I'm putting in the negatives. And then what about this bottom row? It looks a little bit different. What am I going to do with it?
You're going to add a 0.
Yeah, and the 0 has to go in the z spot. So 4, 1, 0, negative 3. Obviously, if you put the 0 someplace else, you're not going to get the right answer. All right? So I got all my numbers in. I got them written down. I don't have many yet, but I have them written down. All right. Next thing I'm going to write down is the matrix that comes out of the calculator. So now it's time to go to my calculator and put that in, RREF it, and see what comes out. So, does everybody remember how to do this? We go to second matrix, and then we go across to edit, and hit enter. And the first thing my calculator wants to know is how big a matrix you're putting in. Please don't start putting in these numbers yet. First you have to tell it how big the matrix is. What are the dimensions of this matrix?
3 by 4.
3 by 4, very good. It has 3 rows and 4 columns. So it's 3 by 4. So 3 enter, 4 enter. Okay? Now, I'm ready to put them in. So I'm just going to start typing in these numbers, being very, very careful to put them in exactly the right spot and include the negatives and all that. So go ahead and put them in it. Is there anybody who doesn't know how to get these numbers into your calculator? All right, we're putting them in then. As soon as you get the last one in, please press enter. And then what do? After I get this last negative 3 in, type in negative 3, hit enter, then what?
Second click.
Exactly. Remember, guys, that the edit feature of your matrix menu is only to put numbers in. So if you've already got them in, you're done with that. So second quit, there we go, we're done. Now we're going to go back into second matrix just like we did before. Only this time, instead of going over to edit, we're only going to go over to math. And then you remember you have to click down a long ways, but eventually if you just keep scrolling down, 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 eventually you're going to find RREF. Press enter. So now your screen says RREF. Then go back into second matrix and press enter and enter, and it gives you the matrix. Oh, that's not right. So write down the matrix that comes out, which the one that came out for me is this. Is this what came out for you? Does that look okay, or anybody want to argue about that? Everybody okay? So then I'm going to write down my answer, and remember this column right here is your answer. So you're just going to write your answer, -11, comma, 41, comma, -23, comma, and that represents your X, Y, and Z value. That's what you were looking for when you solved this system, and that is it. Okay? Now we're going to try one more, but I'm going to have you do it on your own, okay? And anyone whose face I can't see, I want you guys to look at your screen right now. And I want you to look at Gabe Jamel. Gabe Jamel is right there. So is Clara. So is Miriam. That's how I need to see you. Okay? All right, so here we go. We're gonna do a new problem exactly the same way. Just to make sure we're ready for our one problem quiz tomorrow. I know it's hard when you're trying to copy this down, so take a minute, make sure that you're getting all the numbers right. Remember on your quiz, you're going to write down the matrix that goes in, the matrix that comes out, and then your final answer. That's all you're going to be writing down. Everything else is going to be on the calculator. So I'll give you a minute to do that on your own, and then I'll do it, and we'll see how it comes out. Did everybody catch that bottom row has a 0 in it? And did you catch that the 0 is here in the Y spot?
Miss Ford,
Uh-huh.
I'm having like calculator issues. I'm doing everything right, like the right steps, but it's coming out in decimals.
That's okay. That's all right. Not the whole world, Kennedy, is whole numbers. We know there are decimals out there in the world. And keep in mind, I randomly made up this problem.
Well, I got decimals last time too.
Oh, well, then that was wrong. But if you got decimals this time, let's see what decimals you got. Now, let's let everybody catch up. Has everybody gotten to the point where you RREF'd and you now have a matrix that's got a bunch of decimals in it? Are we to that point? We should have, this part should all be fine. This part's all good. But over here, I got these big long decimals. I got -46, 6.21. There's a whole bunch of decimal places. I'm only writing down a couple of them. Does that look, did anybody match that? Did anybody else get that? Okay, now, here's what you do if that happens. First of all, as I just told Kennedy, not every problem is going to have nice, neat integer answers. It is if I rig it, I have to make that happen. That doesn't happen by accident. Here, I just randomly threw these numbers up on the board, and so I got this terrible answer. Here's what I want you to do. It's so easy to handle. On your calculator, there is a button that says math. It actually says math on it. I'm pointing to it. Press that button. Notice that the very first option is fraction. Press enter twice, and it will give you the fractional form, which is easy to write down. So the fractional form gives me -13/28, 87/14, and -4/7. So if you happen to get crazy random decimals, then you're just going to press your math button and then enter a couple times, and it'll clean those up for you. Okay? Now, Kennedy, if you are typing in all of it, if you know what you're doing, if you're typing all the right steps and all that, you simply input a number wrong, so you need to make sure that you're putting in all the numbers with their negatives in exactly the right order, because there is no way that your calculator will mess this up. If it doesn't come out, it's operator error. So just make sure you type them in correctly. So you can go back to edit and type them in again and see if that comes out for you. Okay?
Yeah, I still looked like where it says edit, and I have all the right numbers, so I'm just like, I don't know what's going on.
I don't know either. If you're doing second matrix math, RREF, enter, enter, it should produce this. So start over, type the matrix in again, make sure you have it copied down correctly, because there's no way it cannot be right. No way. It's the only thing that can possibly be wrong is you're not putting these numbers in correctly. So double check, start over, make sure you're getting them in right. Okay. All right, so tomorrow, guys, we have a quiz, one problem, half sheet. I'm going to randomly make up a problem, or two or three, different problems for different people, and this is all you have to do. Do we need to have a calculator tomorrow that we know how to use? Yes, or we will get a 0 on this quiz. So please, please, please make sure you have that. Or not tomorrow, but Wednesday. All right, let's get back to our practice quiz. We'll do one of these, or our practice test. We'll do one of these on the practice test also. So you'll get another chance to practice here in a couple minutes. But first, we got to get back to work as we prepare for a test. Oh gosh, double check. I think for you guys it's Friday. But double check that. All right, so here we are. We're on practice test number 2. Yep, and we're in number 4, and we're ready for B, which is 2C. Can anybody tell me what 2 times C will equal?
2, 4, 6 on the top,
Yep.
and then -2, 2, and 8.
Bingo. That's it. That's what it equals. That's all there is to it. Does anybody have a question about that? When we put a number out in front, which by the way is called a scalar, when we put a coefficient on that matrix, we just take it times each of those items. Okay. Now we've got A, matrix A, times C. Now I went ahead and wrote it down, but I'm not even sure I can do it. What is the rule for matrix multiplication?
The two numbers have to match the last one of the first one and the first one of the.
Yep. So what he's talking about is the we got to figure out what the dimensions here are. So this guy, this first matrix, has 2 rows and 2 columns, so he's a 2 by 2. This one has 2 rows and 3 columns, so he's a 2 by 3. In order to multiply them, like he said, the inside 2 have to match. They do. That means this is a doable problem, and it also means that the answer is going to be another 2 by 3. So 2 rows, 3 columns. Now I know we've done a lot of this, but I want to go through the first couple together just to make sure everybody's clear on it. When you multiply, you take row times column. So if I am doing this position, if I want to know what that number is, that is in the first row, first column. So I take my first row and my first column. Kids, it's always rows, columns. So I'm going to write down the numbers in the first row, which are 1 and 2. There I go, write them down. Next to them, I'm going to write the numbers in the first column. And then I'm going to multiply each pair and add them up. So this will be a -1. Now, those of you actually working along on this, did you get -1? Okay, so let's do one more together, and then I'll have you finish it up on your own. Here we go. If we move over here, and the order you do it doesn't matter, but I kind of like to stay organized, so I'm going to move over here. Notice I am still in my first row, so I'm still using the 1 and the 2. If I'm in the first row, I'm using 1 and 2. Now, though, I'm in the second column, so I'll use 2 and 1. Multiplying each pair and adding them up, that's a 4. Now, can you go ahead and fill in the rest? We'll see what we get, and then we'll redo any that you miss. We got to get this clarified today. We got to get this straightened out. Remember that when you move down here to get these numbers, you're going to be using your second row. Tell me when you got them all. Do we have most of them? All right, Leah, give me this number. Right here where I'm pointing. What do you have right there?
11.
All right. Leo, what do you got right here, Leo, where I'm pointing?
I didn't realize I was on mute. Wouldn't that be 3?
I don't know, we're gonna, 3 or 2, which one you want me to write down?
3,
All
I
right.
think.
Okay, we're gonna find out. All
I'm
right,
not sure.
okay, well, we're gonna find out. Scruggs, what do you got right here?
I don't know.
Okay, Princess, what do you have right here?
I have -1.
Right here, okay. And then this last spot right here, let's see, Miriam, what have you got here?
-16.
-16. All right, now here is the bad news. The only one that's right is this one right here. So the 11 is the correct number. The entire bottom row is wrong, so we need to get this straightened out. So if you got, well, if you did not get the right answers, and we're going to find out what those are here in a second, you need to be paying attention because we're not going to spend any more time on matrix multiplication. So listen carefully, write down exactly what I tell you to write down, okay? Some of you are trying to do it in your head. Some of you are making up your own rules. That never works. All right, so here we go. I'm going to find this number right here. This number right here is in row 2, column 1. So I'm going to write down row 2, and I'm going to write down next to those numbers, I'm going to put column 1. So I put down the first number of row 2, the second number of row 2, the first number of column 1, the second number of column 1. And then I add them, I multiply each pair and add them together. So this should be a 7. So whoever gave me that wrong answer, please double check your work and make sure you took 3 - 4 times 1 - 1. Now, this guy right here, again, he is in the second row. So I am using my 3 and my -4 for this guy right here, second row. But now I'm using my second column. So that number should be a 2. And then finally, this number, again, I'm in my bottom row, so I'm using my 3 and my -4. But now I'm using my third column, which is 3 and 4. So multiplying each pair and adding them up gives me -7. Now, those of you that gave me the wrong answers, those of you that had no answers, and everybody else who missed it, which is probably a ton of you, ask me a question about where I got one of those numbers. Let's make sure you understand how to get those numbers on your own. Okay? I've done this for almost 50 years, and I still write down every step. Those of you that are trying to skip around, it's a bad idea. Bad idea. Okay, onward and upward. D. A plus B. Tell me about problem 4D, which is A plus B.
You can't do it right because it has to be the same dimension.
Exactly. You can't do it because when we add, the matrices have to be the same size, and they aren't. A is a 2 by 2, and B is a 3 by 3. And we cannot add a 2 by 2 and a 3 by 3. So D is no answer. How about E? E says we are multiplying B times D. Now before I write it all out, what are the dimensions of B?
3 times 3.
3 by 3, perfect. What are the dimensions of D?
2 by 2.
Okay, that's problematic because if I'm multiplying, don't those have to match? So what's the answer to problem E? Can't do it. Impossible. No solution. because there's so many rules with matrices, there are many times that you're gonna come up with no answer. So don't be alarmed when that happens. All right, what about the F? Can I do 2D minus A? Is that a doable problem before I get it all written out? Is that doable?
Yeah.
Yeah, because D and A are both the same size. So I'm gonna take 2 times D, and I'm gonna subtract A, and I'm very careful to have my matrices in the right order and copy them down correctly. So we already talked about this. How do I handle 2 times D? Well, I multiply everything by 2. Now when I subtract, I do it by corresponding entries. So these two numbers are going to be subtracted. So -4 minus 1, that's going to be a -5. -4 minus 1. Then I'll do 2 minus 2, so that'll be a 0. Then I'll do 6 minus 3, so that'll be a 3. And then I'll do 12 minus -4, which would be 16. Does anybody have a question about that? All right. Remember that to do that, they have to be the same size. So we had a 2 by 2 and a 2 by 2, so it all worked out great. We just match up the entries and do whatever it says. In this case, it's subtract, but I would add the same way. If that had been an add, I would do the same thing. It would just be adding instead of subtracting. All right, now we got a 3 by 3 determinant. Okay. Zane Hill, do you remember what to do here?
Yeah, don't you copy the first 2 rows down first?
Yeah, they're columns. We're gonna make sure
Or
I think you know
columns,
yeah, you knew the right thing. These are columns, so we're gonna copy 2, -1, 0, and 1, 1, 1. Notice that these are the 2 that I copy, and I just bring them over here and copy them in exactly that order. Don't mix them up. Now, we're going to be multiplying, and we always start right here. Please do not start anywhere else. This is where you start, right here. So we multiply down and get 0. Down and get 0. Down and get -4. So I'm multiplying, multiplying, multiplying. Now I'm going to add those up, and I get -4. So those are all the downs combined. Now I'm going to go up. Same thing, but up. So 0, 10, and 0. And total those up. So I have a 0, a 10, and a 0. What do I do with these two numbers? My downs are -4, my ups are 10. What do I do?
Subtract.
Subtract. So -4 minus 10. When I subtract, it's downs minus ups. So it's -14. All right, so here we go. A. I'm going to do my little vocab section now. So matrix A is given. What is A sub 1, 2? What's the number that's A sub 1, 2? 4. 4. First row, second column. Look at your matrix. What number is in the first row, second column? Isn't it a 4? That's what this means. First row, second column. What are the dimensions of this matrix?
4 by 2.
Perfect. Rows go this way, guys. How many do we have? 4. Columns go this way. How many do we have? 2. It's a 4 by 2. Perfect. What do we call the 3? I already had this word on the board.
Scalar.
Yep, it's called a scalar. By the way, I think that word was on the first practice test also, so maybe you ought to know it. That coefficient, that real number, is a scalar. Is A square matrix?
No, because there's not the same number of rows and columns.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better. That's exactly right. The only way a matrix will be square is if these two numbers match. So 4 by 4, 3 by 3, 2 by 2, those would be squares. This one's not. Define matrix. It's a rectangular array of numbers arranged in rows and columns. That is in your notes. If you missed that or don't know that, please go back to your notes and get that definition. Now we got our big word problem. All right, so here we go. While I'm setting it up, would you start filling in your chart? You get points for filling in the chart, guys, so please fill it in as much as you possibly can. This is another fixed interval problem. We talked about that last time.
Good morning, are you in class? Congratulations on the
All right. Did everybody get the cost? Did you put a 55 here and a 95 here? Did everybody get that okay? All right. And then it says, can you see the fixed interval, guys? For audio players, we have to make between 600 and 1500. So my fixed interval for audio is between 600 and 1500. I'm going to call that X and that Y, and I'm just going to put an X in here. So my X, if my X is the number of audio players, then it says in the problem I have to have between 600 and 1500 audio players. And I have to have between 800 and 1700 phones. Now, this is all supposed to be in this box, but I bled it over so it wasn't so cramped up. So this is, for phones, I have to be between 800 and 1700. This box is empty, and this box is empty. What's the total number of things I'm making?
2,000.
Yep. So take a look at that for a second. Does anybody have a question about any of the things in any of those spots? This one's a little tricky because they talk about the minimums, so the 600 and the 800 are together, but they don't go together in the same interval because 600 is audio, So that's the minimum audio, and then the maximum audio is 1500. So that's why it's set up like that. Okay? Now, these fixed intervals are automatically constraints. So these are things you're automatically going to be graphing. So I'm going to go ahead and write them down. Any fixed interval, and it will say fixed interval right there in the chart, any fixed interval is going to automatically get graphed. Now, this is also going to get graphed because you've got something all the way across. So x plus y, now be careful, is that a less than 2,000 or a greater than 2,000? Read the problem, what do you think?
Greater than or equal to.
Exactly. And what's the key word in there, Gabe, that tells you that?
Lovely day.
At least.
Exactly. Kids, you gotta read every word, and it says at least 2,000. So that means when you add it up, it has to be greater than or equal to 2,000. Perfect. And then we got a couple more. What are the automatic ones down here? Oh, wait, that doesn't go there. That goes here. I haven't filled this in yet. Sorry about that. That's my minimum statement. I haven't done that yet. What are the two gimmies we have down here as constraints? X and Y are both positive. We're going to write those down to get those easy points every single time. Now, what am I minimizing? Cost, which will be 55x plus 95y. All right, I'm ready to start graphing. Does anyone have a question at this point before I start graphing? All right, I'm going to start with this fixed interval right here. I'm going to do it in purple. And given the size of these numbers, I think my hatches better be hundreds. I think I'm going to use a scale of 100. So on the x-axis, there's 100, 200, 3, 4, 5. Here's 600 right here. And then I got to go all the way to 1,500. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm probably off the screen. Or my name's in the way or something there. So I'm going all the way across to 1,500. And then in these fixed intervals, you just draw a nice little vertical line. And we're going to shade in between. X is in between 600 and 1,500. So far, I've shaded this purple bar right here. Okay, so this is shaded on your paper. Go ahead and shade it. Now, let's do the same thing with the Y's. So up 800, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And these bars are going to go sideways. So I have shaded in between my purple bars and in between my red bars. So can everybody see we're talking about this rectangle right here? This part right here is what we're talking about? Right here? All right, now let's put this one in. I'll put this one in green, and this is gonna be bad news because I'm off my paper. But I'm gonna cover up X, and Y is 2000. So it'd be 18, 19, 20 is gonna be clear up there. And then same thing with X, it's gonna be clear out here. Oh Lord. So I'm not gonna be able to get those 2 points then, but I'm gonna go ahead and connect them. The best I can. So I gotta go all the way up to 20 up here, and all the way out to 20 out here. And then I just kind of imaginary connected, or started drawing, brought it down into my picture. And I really don't care about those points up there, because remember, we were only concerned with this in between the purple and the red. So this is the part I'm concerned about. So I got this line coming down through the middle of it. Okay, so where am I going to shade that green one? This one right here is my green one. Where is that going to get shaded?
Up the line.
Okay, so if I am inside the box and above the line, don't I have this right here? Does that make sense to everybody? So let's talk about some of these points. This one up here is an easy one. Purple is 600 and red is 1700. So one of my points is going to be 600, 1700. This one is also easy. This one is 1500, 1700. And this one is 1500, 800. Now, these 3 points, kids, are places where the purple and the red come together. So that is actually the corner on your grid. That's how I knew that point and this point and this point.
What about those other two?
Okay, yep, we gotta find those other two. That's exactly right. Now, let's look at this one first. It doesn't matter which one, but let's just look at this one first. Now, that dot is on this purple line, which automatically means that its X is 600. If you are on this purple line, your X is 600. But it's also on the green line. And on the green line, when you add them together, you're supposed to get 2000. So if we know the X is 600, then doesn't the Y have to be 1400? Because if you are looking at a point on the green line, they have to add up to 2000. That's what the green line says. They add up to 2000. So this one, we can do the same thing. This one's on the red line, which means its Y is 800. And if its Y is 800, then its X has to be 1200. Now, does anyone have a question about any of those 5 points? All right, we're almost done. What do we need to do now? How are we going to find our answer? What's the very last step?
You put
plug it into the cost?
Exactly. And the cost says, take 55, I'm gonna write it right above here, take 55 times the first one and 95 times the second one and add them up. So 55 times 600 plus 95 times 1700, that one is 194,500. That's the cost if I make 600 audios and 1,700 phones. Then I just keep going. So 1,500 times 55 plus 95 times 1,700. I'm open to conversation if we disagree on a number here. That's what I got right here when I plugged in my vertices. These big black points are called the vertices. When I plugged them in, this is what I got. What do you think? Does that make sense, or is there anybody agreeing with those? Anybody have a question about one of those? Okay, well, remember, I am minimizing in this problem. So I'm going to look down through this list, and I think my last one is the minimum. So I'm going to tell this company they should make, I'm going to write a sentence, they should make 1,200 audio players and 800 phones for a cost of $142,000. Does anybody have a question about that? Do you agree with my arithmetic? Okay, all right. Well, we had our calculator problem to go, so this is good. This is what our quiz is like tomorrow. This is a bigger one now. This is a big one. So remember, your obligation is to write down the matrix that you're putting in. So let's be real organized and get this matrix in. This time I have A, B, C, D. So I'll organize myself. Here we go. So 1, 1, 1, 1, 10. Oops, in the third row I'm missing a D. Did you catch that? And in the bottom row, I'm missing a B. All right, is that matrix going in look okay to everybody? I see a bunch of bent heads. Are you typing in? So the second matrix, edit. How big is this one? This one's bigger than the last one. How big is this guy?
4 by 5.
Perfect. So 4 enter, 5 enter, and then in go the numbers. And this one was rigged. This is what I do on my Saturday nights. I make up problems that have nice, cool answers like 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, just to recap, what would have happened if I hadn't gotten these nice, neat answers? How do I work it so I don't have to round off or deal with hideous decimals?
Math, enter, enter.
Exactly. So if it comes out great like this, you are done. Write it down and move on. X, Y, Z, W, or no, A, B, C, D. There you go, you're done. If you get wacky decimals out here, then you are simply going to, after you type it all in and get to this point, you're simply going to hit math, your math button, enter, enter, and it's going to fix it for you. All right. Practice test 3. We're going to do 3 problems and then we're going to be done. This is not going to take us long because you are all experts at substitution and elimination for sure. So here we go, substitution. I think that's equals -1. My copy's not very good. Yours probably isn't either. So I think your equations are 2x plus 3y equals -1 and x plus y equals 0. Now, if I'm using substitution, which I am, that's what the directions say, do you agree it might just be easiest to say x equals -y? Or y equals -x? Would everybody agree with that, one or the other? Then I'll take that and plug it in. So 2 times -y plus 3y equals -1. So -2y plus 3y equals -1. And y equals -1. Do not stop there. If y equals -1, what do we have to do to finish the problem?
Plug it back in.
Yep, and when you plug it in anywhere you want. So you can plug it in up here, you can plug it in here, you can plug it in here. Doesn't make any difference. It looks like if I let y be -1, x has to be +1. So I write my answer as 1, -1. Does anyone have a question about that? Okay, elimination. Now, there's lots of ways you can do it, not just one. What would be one possible way to make something eliminate?
Right, -3.
Multiply the bottom row by -3. So we have 2x plus 3y equals -8 on the top, and then -9x, -3y, positive 15 on the bottom. You must have, if you're gonna eliminate, one has to be positive and one has to be negative. So that's why we're multiplying by -3 to make this one negative, so that these two will cancel out. So -7x equals 7, and x equals -1. Now we do exactly what we did a minute ago. We take that -1 and we plug it back in anywhere we want. So I'm just going to put it in the top because I haven't messed up that equation. So 2 times -1 plus 3y equals -8. -2 plus 3y equals -8. Adding 2, 3y equals -6. And y equals -2. So I write my answer as -1, -2. All right, well, the bell snuck up on me, so I'm gonna go ahead and we're just gonna stop there. I'd hope we get one more done, but we'll stop there. And we have a calculator quiz on Wednesday, and our test is on Friday. All right, everybody okay? All right, have a great day. I will see you on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.